Winter Carnival, when it started, however many years ago, it started. It was actually, if I remember right, it was the first balloon rally that came together back in the, I don't know what it was, the 50s or 60s, but it was around a long time ago where the St. Paul Winter Carnival had balloons in it. That ballooning is the oldest form of aviation. It's been around since 1783, and gas ballooning has been very competitive throughout the last 100 years where they've had events. Modern day hot air ballooning started more in the 60s, when we started doing competitive events. I started out as a crew person. A friend of mine got me started crewing back in 1988, and I was hooked pretty much from the start, and bought my first balloon in 91 and started training and turned it into a business in 1999, 2000. Is when I turned it into a business, and now I've been doing it full-time since 2014. I crewed in Milwaukee at the time when the Milwaukee County Zoo had a balloon and that they used for promotion. And I became a crew member on that balloon, and I crewed for them for about a year and a half, 2 years. And then that guy that I was crewing for at the time, Dave Lowe was his name, he and Nick White got the REMAX contract for the Milwaukee area. So when I started training, I was training in a REMAX balloon back in the early 90s, and come full circle that now I actually operate the REMAX contract for Wisconsin and Minnesota now. I just got a phone call, from the guy that I'd been working with previously. He called me and said, he was interested in having us do REMAX balloon in the Wisconsin area. So we met, and I guess it was basically just by my reputation that he got my name and contacted me, and so we started working together with that back in 2001. I think we started the REMAX contract with Minnesota Valley Balloons, and now Minnesota Valley Balloons is just retired out of it and transitioned the business to us, to Wind Dancer Balloon Promotions. My first balloon was a much smaller balloon than what I fly right now. It was manufactured by the Balloon Works company out of Statesville, North Carolina, and that's what I did my primary training in with that balloon. I kind of wore that balloon out in the late 90s and bought a balloon similar to the one that I fly now, and that was for my personal balloon. And that was in '98 when I got that balloon. I've owned a couple other in between there, that used balloons and stuff like that I had back in the 90s. But my first new balloon I got in 1998, and then I got the REMAX balloon in 2001. And then I did something a little bit different, is I bought a racing balloon that's a different shaped balloon. It's the one that we flew today. It's kind of a football shaped balloon. It goes up and down quicker, and it's used for competition. And I bought that in 2006, I think it was, when I bought that balloon. That's my toy. That's what I get to play with. That's now with REMAX and balloon rides back home, the other balloons are used more as a tool, for the trade, and my racer is my toy. We go to an event in Indianola, Iowa every summer. It's a competitive event. It's a 9-day event. Indianola is kind of the home of ballooning. That's where the Balloon Federation office is. That's where the first championships were. It's just a real down home, homey feeling, a great place to fly, good people, and that's probably one of my favorite places to fly is in Iowa. People ask me that all the time, where my favorite place to fly is. I love flying at home. Wisconsin's got so much to offer. Wherever you fly, you see different things all the time. And like I say, I've probably flown in about 30 states, and Wisconsin's still my favorite place to fly. There's multiple events that we go to every year. There's some the new ones that we try different years. It all depends. We do the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta every October. This year in 2018 will be my 20th year of going to that event. And that's a fun event. It's like a pilgrimage of balloonists from all over the world that come to that event every year. It's kind of like a reunion where you get to see a lot of your friends that you only might see 1 or 2 times a year. And so a lot of people go to Albuquerque. It's about 500 balloons there. I've been going now for the past 5 years to an event in January in Lake Havasu City, Arizona. That's a fun event to go to. It's a good midwinter break. We were just there last week. It was in the low 70s, so it's nice to be able to go ballooning in the 70s, and then a week later we're here in Hudson and ballooning when it's in the 20s and 30s. I started coming to the Hot Air Fair, I want to say it's 17 years ago, 15 years ago, something like that, and I might have missed one or two in between there, just because of the way things worked out. But now, for probably about the last 10 or 11 years, I've been coming every year. And a couple of years ago, they asked me if I would help in the organization and management of the pilots and the flying event. So I started that. This is my third year that I've been working with Evie and Carla and Molly that are putting everything together here. And they, these gals are all volunteers, and they do such a good job at putting this event on. And that's why it's been going on for as long as it has. They do a really good job. Hudson's always been a fun event. I like winter flying. You can, many times when the weather allows, you can fly a lot longer, just because you don't burn as much fuel. And being able to see the earth and see all the wildlife and stuff in the winter, it's a whole different perspective than seeing it in the summertime. The best way to get involved in ballooning is become part of a crew. Where you start working with the pilot and doing, helping them get the balloon set up and do that kind of stuff and really learn the ropes that way, and then, that if you want to continue in it, taking your training, getting, buying your first balloon, those are all exciting things to do. And it's not that expensive to do. It's people think, oh, that's such an expensive sport. It really isn't. You can get into it if you're into aviation, if you like aviation, things that fly. Ballooning is one of the best ways to get into flying. At an inexpensive rate. We're working really hard with the balloonists to get more youth involved. We've got the Balloon Federation of America has a balloon camp every year, where, just like any other summer camp for kids, where we get 25, 30 kids an opportunity to learn more about ballooning. And these kids are age 12 to 18. And the BFA has been doing this for probably about the last 7 or 8 years. And I know that there is at least a dozen alumni from the balloon camp that are now balloon pilots, that are in their 20s. So it's a great thing. Balloonists are always looking for help. It's a community sport. It's a family sport. Where you need people to do it. It's not like, if you're going golfing, you can go out by yourself, or if you're into motorcycles, you can go out on a ride by yourself. This is more of a people type sport, people type activity where you have, a number of people involved. You can do it with a small number, but, as I always say, the more the merrier. We're out here to have fun. My wife and I run the business. She helps me with the logistics of running the business, and we do the Hot Air Balloon ride business as well as commercial promotions and putting on events. And my kids have grown up in it, and that's all they know is ballooning. So they're growing into my crew. My kids are 7, 11, and 12. So they're growing into it. But like the guy that Braden flew with this morning, he started flying when he was 14, got his license when he was 16. And has been doing it ever since. And that's what my son Jack is planning on doing right now, my oldest son. The other two will probably follow along too, because it's kind of like the family business, and it's a lot of fun. It's kind of cool.
I've just grown up ballooning. Ever since I was little, I've been going to Albuquerque in Iowa. I first found interest probably when I was really young, watching my dad set up the balloon and then go off into the air. One of our balloons is named after me because I said "Daddy up sky" when I was like 5 or something, because I saw Dad in the air, and that's really when I first wanted to do that. So ever since then, I've always done what he's done and tried to do it like him, and I think I've done a pretty good job so far, because I've flown with him before in our balloon Jack's Up Sky, and yeah, I've always had a lot of interest in it. My first full flight was probably when I was about 5 or something. I don't really remember it that much, but I think I was probably a little bit scared, because I've never been in the air before like that. I've seen my dad do it for years, but I've never really done it. But once you get in the air, you just have this this sense of comfort in your mind, because yeah, you're a few thousand feet in the air, but you know you're not gonna fall or anything bad will happen. You see all the wildlife on the ground, and it just warms your heart a little bit, because it's just so interesting. And ever since then, I've loved to go up. I've go up as much as I can, but then being in the air, you just have this sense of comfort. Like I said earlier, it's just so quiet. Then you hear the occasional dog barking down a few thousand feet below, but yeah, it's really amazing. Albuquerque is very fun because there's people from all over the world that come. There's a lot of cool balloons there too. There's special shapes like Darth Vader and Yoda, and there's a really cool armadillo that I think my dad should have bought, but whatever. And I really like Albuquerque. And then Indianola, one of the ones that Dad mentioned, is another really fun one. We have a lot of friends down there. It's a really competitive community too, because there's 50 balloons there, so you can win. And Dad's gotten very close before, and some bad luck and there's some good luck, but all in all, we're all gonna be friends till the end, and whenever you turn on each other, and we're just one big community down there. This is my second year coming with just my dad, and I think that's one of a good time to get away with just my dad, and we come out here and fly together. And then there's previous years when I've been younger and my whole family comes out here, and that's been really fun too, because we get the whole family to come out during wintertime and fly the balloons. Back at home, we don't get to fly as much during the winter because we've got sports and school and stuff, but this is just a good time to get away and have some fun.